World War I was the first war of its kind. It stretched from ocean to ocean and wiped out many innocent lives. It is a very true statement that without weapons, the war's impact would be close to nothing. And with that, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to The Weaponry and Technology of World War I by Kaylin Hendricks. The weapons of World War I posed a tremendous impact on the overall results of the conflict. Many men's lives were lost due to the technological advances. A machine gun could destroy the face of a loving father. Poison gas could infiltrate the lungs of a young boy with dreams to one day become a doctor. These instances cause us to look at the war differently, and to fully understand the impact of this conflict, we must venture into this perspective.
Keep a little cozy corner in your heart for me.
What you thought we was one and done? Like I'm Carmelo Anthony, Jerry Wall or something.
There were many different weapons introduced to the battlefield. The tank was one of them. The idea for the tank came from a farming vehicle that could cross rough terrains using caterpillar tracks. Lieutenant Ernest Swinton was the most significant commander in the development of the tank, and he proposed that a new type of weapon needed to be created that could bypass any issues in terrain or environment, as well as violate the boundaries of enemy trenches. Believe it or not, the tank wasn't always successful on the battlefield at first. They were very slow and would often get stuck in potholes or remains of past trenches. However, this tool did come in handy and opened the door to a new form of machine warfare. The Big Bertha was a stupendous weapon in the First World War. Its name originated from the inventor's, Gustav Krupp's, wife. This howitzer was used to demolish the fortress towns of Liege and Namur, and was successful, giving it a higher rank as a new weapon in the war. The Big Bertha was most noted for its attack on a set of Belgian forts, which were said to be indestructible at the time of the attack. However, the gun proved this assumption to be false. 3 days after the first attack on Belgium, all forts had been either destroyed or had surrendered. This outstanding victory led to the Big Bertha becoming a subject of gossip throughout the world, and many different countries began to invest in larger artillery as the war progressed. It was a weapon that all soldiers feared. All it took was a single inhale and your life could end in less than a week. The French army was the first to use it on the battlefield in the battle against the Germans. In August 1914, the French surprised the Germans with an attack that would be remembered for decades to come. The French used tear gas grenades containing XYLYL bromide on the Germans. The other most popular type of poison gas was mustard gas. Mustard gas was first used by the Germans against the Russians at Rita. The gas caused both internal and external blisters and sores to form within hours of being exposed to it. The damage done to the lungs and other organs was terribly painful and sometimes fatal. Many of the men that did survive the inhalation of the gas would later become blinded by it. Mustard gas was the most deadly of all poison gases at the time, and many of the effects took place less than 12 hours after contact. Death could occur up to 5 weeks after inhalation. Believe it or not, machine guns were first used during the American Civil War. It was known as the Gatling gun, and was named after its inventor, Dr. Richard J. Gatling. The Gatling gun was a hand-crank operated weapon. The bullets were fed into the gun through a bullet magazine located on top of it. Gravity was the main component of the gun. The bullets would fall into the barrels one at a time, and in a split second would be fired at once. The rotating barrel assembly would continue to rotate and fire multiple bullets, which gave the Gatling gun the unique power of over 10 single shotguns. Although the gun was an amazing addition to American ammunition, Hiram Maxim was the first to attempt an automatic version of the gun. Maxim's version was very similar to the Gatling gun, however it did not require any human intervention to fire it, other than pushing the trigger. The innovation greatly impacted warfare during the 1900s. In fact, it was Maxim's model that was used in the First World War. Much like poison gas, submarines were one of the greatest fears during the Great War. Another parallel was the fact that submarines weren't efficiently used until World War I. Their early use was mostly just for border and coastal defense, but the First World War really proved the U-boat's worth. John Holland, an Irish-American engineer, can be most credited for the creation and improvement of the modern submarine. Holland was aiming at forming a vessel that could submerge and maneuver underwater. His design became known as the U-boat. The internal combustion engine was the #1 way to keep the U-boats running. Sadly, the fumes and exhaust from the engine caused low oxygen consumption to be an obstacle in the continuing missions of the submarine. This flaw was one of the many issues that were improved and fixed in the Second World War. Although many flaws were found in the early submarines, they proved to be very efficient and reliable during the war, and many countries began using the stealthy machine. On May 7, 1915, the British ship, the Lusitania, was fired at from the German U-20. To Germany's surprise, there were American civilians on the Lusitania, and this submerged attack soon led to America's entrance into the war. World War I ended up lasting for 4.5 years, and many soldiers suffered mental breakdowns and psychological scars after the war, not to mention the physical effects. Nearly 10 million soldiers lost their lives during the war. Along with that, nearly 8 million were wounded. Veterans of the war faced an uncertain future. Germany was responsible for paying reparations, which quickly turned into a long depression for the country. Economic growth in Germany dropped, and the country suffered for many years. The world will also be introduced into the first major communist society, the Soviet Union. These struggles would soon lead to the ascension of Adolf Hitler, the dictator of Germany. But that's the whole story, so before I close, remember the lives that were lost, remember the toll. Bring it to the present, learn from the past. Ladies and gentlemen, may the evil of this world pass. God bless America. Thank you for watching.